Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Europe is, as we all know, facing huge challenges. We are still in a critical situation, trying to cope with our problems and challenges on the financial field. But it is important also to be aware that a crisis always contains the seeds for new possibilities and for new positive development. The global balance of power in these years is moving from the west to the east, especially with the BRIC countries being the new dynamos for economic growth and innovation. And also, the BRIC countries are using their new economic muscles to become stronger political powers. At the same time, Europe is highly challenged from the inside. Our economies are bleeding, some countries suffering from high public debts, others from uncontrollable public deficits. When I look at the political landscape, I notice two very different ways in which political leaders seek to tackle the economic challenges. On the one hand, there is the typical socialist way, simply to increase public spending and avoid structural reforms, a way which, although it might be convenient in the short run, worsens the economic problems in the respective countries in the longer run without creating any long-term growth. Unfortunately, the lack of political will by those countries to face economic realities and the tendency to pump up public spending in order to please voters and avoid tackling problems at the roots have had a serious damaging effect on the whole European economy. What is needed is another and a more responsible approach, an approach in which we aim at strengthening private sector growth and cutting down public expenditures. This is indeed a harder road to choose, but it is in the longer term the only way to improve European competitiveness. This should be the approach followed by the centre-right parties like ours. As a Danish conservative, I warmly welcome the initiatives and decisions taken by the European Commission and the Council in the field of economic governance and financial regulation. Only through standing together and setting new standards for economic and financial responsibility, as well as enforcing our economic principles, we can ensure that we will move Europe in the right direction towards a new growth and prosperity. At the same time, we ought to remember that the European Union is a union of independent national states. Therefore, when heading towards the same ambitious goals, there is a need to be room for freedom for the national governments to choose their own financial instruments. This being said, we need, of course, to survey that all countries do live up to their responsibilities, do bring down their public debts and deficits, do start to make structural reforms, not least in the labour markets, do implement financial regulation, and do give their citizens the right incentives to make an extra effort and pay their taxes. From a conservative centre-right point of view, the current crisis is not only an economic crisis, but also a moral crisis. Just as we have seen in several countries an increasing public sector, we have at the same time seen the public sector taking more and more responsibility away from the citizens, restricting the private initiative and limiting incentives to invest and do an extra effort at work. If we do not change this development, we will never recover from the current economic downturn. But if we do, we will have a much better position in the other side of the crisis, and our European societies will have a much better platform and be more competitive in the future. Therefore, we need to strengthen individual responsibility and initiative and we need to strengthen private entrepreneurship and growth. And we need also, at the European level, to invest in innovation, infrastructure, sustainable energy, and research. What we need to do now, forced by the current crisis, is really what we ought to do anyway. Therefore, I am proud to be part of a political family where these values are commonly shared, and be part of a European Union where action is now being taken and difficult decisions are being made to create progress for Europe and Europeans. Thank you very much.